and the twilight lies dreaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars.
Hi, I'm Susan Smith. Welcome to my show. This is where I give conservative views on the local and national issues. Articles and video links covered during my show may be found at my website at thesusansmithshow.wordpress.com. Alright, we're going to start off with giving a salute. A shout out to Sergeant Saral Shrestha from Bellevue, Nebraska for receiving the Soldier of the Year Award. Great way to represent Nebraska, Sergeant. Coming up, the second Saturday of each month is the Empowerment Network's monthly meeting held at North High School in the Viking Center. Now, because of the holidays, please either call them or go to the website or their Facebook page and make sure that they're going to, starting in January, they're going to have the second Saturday is going to be their monthly meeting. And that's the Empowerment Network. Bring your suggestions, your comments, your concerns, because that's the meeting to get things done at. So we hope to see you there. Got this alert in from the Catholic Advocate on January 6th. They want you to know that there is a petition on the White House website that condemns Pope Benedict XVI address to the College of Cardinals and the Catholic Church. The petition signers want the Roman Catholic Church recognized as an official hate group because of their views on same-sex marriage. If you'd like to help the Catholic Advocate fight this petition, there's more information on the Take Action page on my website. We're going to go to the RAZA Studies that we've been following in Arizona. The updated news is that the author of this racist course has been arrested for domestic violence and breaking and entering, but that tidbit of information put aside, concerned citizens in Arizona are asking us to please call Judge Burry at area code 520-205-4560 and tell him that hate and revolution do not qualify as a concept of humanity, as Associate Professor of Mexican American Studies at the University of Arizona said. You'll recall on a couple previous shows that the RAZA studies include anti-white, anti-American, and revolution teachings. Roberto Rodriguez, in one of the angry racist books he wrote, called Justice, A Question of Race, on page 179 says, "Of course I hate white people." A declaration of intellectual warriors, this is what this declaration was titled, and submitted to Professor Hawley by a Chicano Literature After-School Studies program, the Tucson High Mecca, University of Arizona Mecca, UNIDOS, and it includes words like demand and must. And here are just some excerpts from their declaration of intellectual warriors. Implement RAZA studies in kindergarten through 8 in English and social studies, and not as an elective credit. Assign directors for each race to have sole authority to name corresponding programs without oversight. Must recognize and include dual language classes. The use of public transportation extends the travel time for students, taking time from their studies. So I guess bus transportation is no longer good enough. Maybe they want cars provided to them or taxi cab service. Moving on, students guilty of minor infractions shall not be subject to removal from class as a part of their punishment, whether through in-school suspensions or out-of-school suspensions. humiliation, and demeaning disciplinary tactics must be prohibited. Tucson School District must not resort to police, border patrol, or juvenile hall as means of disciplinary action. They ask that there be no school closures. No school closures will be acceptable. They want to restore respect, justice, and equity in our educational experience and school district. They ask for a full integration of our student demands in your unitary status plan. Now, my Arizona contact says that these RAZA studies, that may also be called Mexican American studies, Chicano studies, Hispanic studies, La Raza, the race studies, are being taught in hundreds of schools across the United States. So I did some checking on our Omaha Public Schools website, and sure enough, they have a Mexican American history course, courses in the following schools: South High, Crest Ridge, Spring Lake, Gomez, Castelar, Jackson, Mars, Beveridge, and Norris. And so I have sent in a request asking for a list of the materials and sources they use to teach this class. We want to make sure that hatred for the gringo and kill the gringo and hate the United States of America is not being taught in Omaha Public Schools. All right, moving on. Here's a ground zero interview that was done. I'm going to need my glasses for this article. Now, keep in mind that this interview was conducted March 3rd of 2008. 3 black leaders give a candid look at what life is like for America's black population living at ground zero of the illegal immigration crisis. Interviews of Jesse Lee Peterson, Terry Anderson, and Stephen Kraft. This was done in the New American. And I'm just going to read some excerpts. Blacks as a group, especially those, blacks as a group, especially those who would be most affected by the invasion of illegal immigrants, are not protesting. No outcry by black leaders like the Reverends Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. The crisis is real, as the interviews of the following 3 gentlemen who have first-hand knowledge of and directness of the situation, who also happen to be black. These questions were asked of Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. He says, for instance, it is devastating. For example, in South Central Los Angeles, Harbor City, Highland Park, Canoga Park, illegal alien gangs are killing innocent blacks, not just other gang members. It's so bad in Canoga Park that blacks were warned by the police department to be on the lookout because they are being shot down by these illegal gang members. He says many blacks are moving away looking for protection. The public schools are just being taken over by illegal aliens coming in. Then he was asked, well, where's the black leadership on this? And Peterson says, they're not talking about it at all. He says many of these illegals look down on black folks. Even in Mexico and the Caribbean and those areas, blacks are second-class citizens. So they're coming here with a negative attitude toward black Americans. Then he was asked, why don't we see the self-anointed black leaders dealing with this particular race issue? Peterson says 2 reasons. First, if they accuse Latinos of being racist, the Latinos don't care, and the black leaders don't gain anything. I'm reading that again. 2 reasons, he says. First, if they accuse Latinos of being racist, the Latinos don't care, and the black leaders don't gain anything. Latinos are not going to be a source of any money. Whenever it's a white on black situation, they get money and power from that. Second, he says, they know if they go after Hispanics, it's going to become apparent the minority races are divided. And black leaders are going to get voted out by Latinos, especially in communities where Latinos are taking over. So black leaders don't deal with the issue. Then he was asked, what about the targeted violence against blacks by Hispanics? What has the Hispanic leadership said? What did the Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villagrosa say? Peterson says, the mayor's not talking about it either. I guarantee you that if it was a white mayor, it would be a different story. Black leaders would say that he's racist, that he's not doing anything about it. But because the mayor is a man of color, you don't hear anything about it at all. Then he says, well, there's a disconnect across ethnicities between leaders and their constituents. And Peterson says, that's why I say all Americans, and especially black Americans, have to start standing up for themselves. They can't trust the false, self-anointed leadership. The self-anointed leadership doesn't care about the people. Then he says, well, what do you see as a solution? And he says, until the people insist that the government secures the border and serve and protect, it's only going to get worse. People, this was back in 2008. And they go on and they interview Terry Anderson.
Talk show host Terry Anderson, known from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles for articulating the popular rage, sat down with Californians for Population Stabilization to discuss the impact illegal immigration has had on black Americans. Anderson, who grew up in South Central Los Angeles and lives there still today, says that blacks in particular have suffered at job sites and in classrooms as a result of explosive illegal immigration. As he likes to say, if you ain't mad, you ain't paying attention.
The new threat in this new millennium is politicians, mostly Democrats, but some of these rotten bastards happen to be Republicans also, but mostly Democrats, who are willing to not only look the other way, but are taking a proactive stance in making sure that the laws are not enforced under any circumstances. One of the most vile, heinous, anti-American representations of the new lawlessness is Speaker of the House, Representative Nancy Pelosi. She is 2 accidents away from being the President of the United States, and recently she said that the enforcement of our current immigration laws are, quote, un-American, unquote. Unbelievable.
I've lived in South Central LA my whole life. I saw the deterioration due to the illegal alien invasion. And one day I started listening to talk radio, and it happened to be George Putnam, who we all know. And I kind of thought I was the only person involved in this. Well, not involved. I was the only person who felt this way. Thought I was by myself, and I heard people call his show just as angry as I was. And I got more involved in talk radio. I looked around the neighborhood. I saw the denseness. 10, 20 people living in a 2-bedroom house. 4 and 5 cars at each house. Corn growing in the front yard. Chickens, goats in yards. This is all the stuff we never had when I was growing up there in the 50s and 60s. And all of a sudden we had it. I knew something was wrong. And then I got kind of aware of things when I saw the amnesty of 1986. I said, I was a very non-political guy. But even as non-political as I was, I said, this ain't going to work. Because if they do this, more will come. And that's what happened. Very slow in the 50s, almost non-existent. In the 60s, it began to change, basically.